Let's start off in the National League with the Reds and the Dodgers. How about the Cincinnati freaking Reds, huh? Give it up to them. The Mets decided they wanted to fall off the face of the planet, and the Reds took advantage here, but they're going to have a tough task with the Dodgers. Now, when it comes to the bats, I got to lean towards the Dodgers here. Big years from Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman. Sure, Mookie Betts, Teoscar Hernandez, they did see their overall numbers dip a bit this year, but they're still solid. Max Muncy did have some injuries this year, but it looks like he's doing better as of late. He's always a threat. And Andy Pages is having a solid sophomore year. With the Reds, they were very inconsistent this year. Now, I do like Elly De La Cruz and TJ Friedl, but guys like Noelvi Marte, Spencer Steer, Gavin Lux, Tyler Stevenson have been up and down. I got to go with the Dodgers lineup here. On the pitching side of things, that's where things get a bit interesting. Now, with the Dodgers, tons of starting pitching. They ranked first overall in starting pitching. Fangraph wins above replacement in the second half. Yoshinobu Yamamoto has been awesome. Snell and Glasnow have looked great after coming back from injuries, and Ohtani has looked solid as well. He just went 6 innings for the first time this season in his last start, and his stuff looked diabolical. Now, the Reds, on the other hand, also have very good starting pitching, and they ranked second overall for the entire year. Hunter Green has missed time this year, but when healthy, he's been one of the best starting pitchers in the game, posting an ERA of 2.76 with 11 strikeouts per 9. You got Andrew Abbott, who's also been very good this year, posting an ERA of 2.87, and Nick Lodolo has also looked very good, striking out 9 batters per 9. They also have some pretty solid depth with Brady Singer and Zach Littell. Now, I do think it's very close when it comes to the starting pitching, but if I were to lean one way, I would give the edge to the Dodgers because they've ranked much better when it comes to stuff plus this year, especially in the second half, and they've gotten more strikeouts, which I think is big for the postseason. And when it comes to the bullpens, I got to give the edge to the Dodgers here. Now, I know Tanner Scott, Blake Trinan, they've been awful as of late. They've had a lot of injuries in the bullpen, but I just prefer the stuff in the Dodgers bullpen. I still think Scott has the ability to get postseason outs despite his struggles, and they have a bunch of other lefties like Alex Vesia, Anthony Banda, Jack Dreyer, and Justin Robleski, who have looked solid. Now, don't forget about Edgardo Henriquez. He's got very good velo in the middle of that bullpen, and Roki Sasaki was moved to the bullpen recently, and he's been looking very good there. In the end, I think the Dodgers just have too much talent. I think the Reds can match them when it comes to the starting pitching, but I think the Dodgers are just a deeper team. On to the Cubs versus the Padres, and I think this is a pretty tight matchup. When it comes to the lineups, you got bats up and down in both. With the Cubs, you got Kyle Tucker, who is scheduled to come back, Pete Crow Armstrong, Nico Horner coming off a great second half, along with some good bats like Michael Busch, Sai Suzuki, who's given them some pop in the middle of the order. Now, with the Padres, you got a star like Fernando Tatis Jr., who's had a very good year. Luis Ariz is a contact machine. Manny Machado, Jackson Merrill bringing some thump to the middle of the order. Xander Bogaerts, he's an experienced bat. Gavin Sheets, Ryan O'Hearn, they've been doing some pretty good things. Now, to be honest, I think it's pretty tough to pick one of these lineups. I think there's just so many good bats up and down here. When it comes to the starting pitching, I also think that's pretty close. The Cubs have been dealing with some injuries this year. Justin Steele earlier in the year, and Cade Horton, after he got called up, he was looking great, but now he's dealing with a rib injury as of right now, so who knows what he's going to look like in the postseason. Now, Matthew Boyd, he was a solid pickup for them this year, and Jameson Taillon has been stepping up as of late. Colin Rea is pretty solid as well, but Shota Imanaga, I'm not so sure about him. He hasn't looked the same as he did last year. He's been very up and down this year. Now, with the Padres rotation, you also got question marks here. Now, Nick Pivetta looks like he's going to be getting the ball for game 1, and rightfully so. He's been a great pickup for them. ERA to 2.87, 9.4 strikeouts per 9. But when it comes to Michael King, Dylan Cease, they've had their ups and downs this year. Dylan Cease, the ERA has been high. The metrics do look good with him, but you just don't know what you're going to get from him. Michael King, he's been dealing with injuries both with the arm and the knee this year. Yu Darvish, he came back from the IL this year, but he just hasn't looked right from the get-go. But I do like the track record with these guys. All 3 of them have shown a lot of good things in the past. Nick Pivetta, like I said, has been solid, but overall, the Padres have question marks, but I do think they have a pretty good ceiling here. Now, when it comes to the bullpens, this isn't very close to me. The Padres have a ton of arms in this bullpen. Robert Suarez, Mason Miller, in my opinion, the best 1-2 punch in all of baseball. Adrian Morejon has actually been one of the best relievers in baseball this year. Jeremiah Estrada, I think, is pretty underrated. This guy's got a ton of velo, good stuff. You got 4 arms here that can absolutely shut it down at the end of the games. You got 4 guys here that can absolutely shut it down at the end of games. And with the Cubs, you got a couple of good arms. Daniel Palencia, Andrew Kittredge, they've been stepping up as of late. A couple of decent arms in Brad Keller, Caleb Tealbar. They've been pretty solid for the most part. Drew Pomeranz has contributed this year. but compared to the Padres bullpen, that doesn't match up at all. So in the end, both teams are pretty solid here. I think the Cubs and the Padres have very good lineups. Both have question marks when it comes to the rotations, but when it comes to the bullpen, I got to go with the Padres there, and I think that's going to be the deciding factor. They got more arms they can turn to at the end of games. So in the end, I think the Padres win this series in 3 games. On to the American League with the Guardians and the Tigers. The Guardians were 15.5 games back at one point this season, and they miraculously came back to win the division. An absolutely incredible run for the Guardians. Now, when it comes to the offenses, I think both lineups have their strengths. With the Guardians, they're focused more on making contact with guys like Steven Kwan to go along with Jose Ramirez, one of the best bats in the game, while the Tigers have more boppers in the middle of the order. You got Spencer Torkelson, Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green right there in the middle. You got Gleyber Torres is having a pretty solid year this year. Even Javier Baez is showing you a couple of things. In the end, I think both lineups are very different, but I think they're both good in their own way. Now, when it comes to the starting pitching, I got to give the edge to the Tigers, mainly because of Tarek Skubal, who's going to be going game 1. When you got Tarek Skubal at the top of your rotation, especially in a short series, that's going to be a big advantage. Now, the Guardians, they have been getting some very solid starting pitching as of late. Gavin Williams has looked fantastic. Tanner Bybee, he's looking like he's getting back on track. Even some other guys like Slade Ciccone, Logan Allen, Joey Cantillo, they've all been looking good. But in the end, when you got someone like Tarek Skubal starting for a game 1, that's a massive advantage. And the Tigers do have some pretty solid arms behind him. Casey Mize has been looking good lately. Cater Montero as well. Don't forget, you still got Jack Flaherty. He was pitching in the World Series last year. So the Tigers, yes, they have Skubal, but they got a couple other guys that can do some things too. I think Skubal is the biggest X factor here. And I know last year the Guardians got to him, but he made one bad pitch in the division round on the Lane Thomas Grand Slam, but I think this time around he's going to be more dialed in, and I think he's going to get this figured out. And they have a couple of other arms they can turn to, like Jack Flaherty this time around. Remember, they didn't have him last year, and they have enough arms in this bullpen to be able to get the job done. And I know they completely blew the division this year, but it's the postseason. You're starting over. It's a fresh start, and I think the Tigers are going to figure this out in 3 games. Let's wrap up the wild card round with the greatest rivalry in sports, the Red Sox versus the Yankees. Now, the Red Sox won the season series 9-4, but the Yankees recently took 2 out of 3 in Boston, with the Red Sox not having Roman Anthony at the top of the lineup. Now, when it comes to the Red Sox lineup, like I said, they haven't had Roman Anthony, who went down with an oblique injury at the beginning of September, and they ranked 15th in offense over the final month without him, but they still have some solid bats like Jarren Duran, Alex Bregman, who has been heating up a bit as of late. Trevor Story's had a solid year, and they got some lefty killers in Roby Gonzalez and Rob Refsnyder. Giancarlo Stanton has been hitting for more power as of late, and even Ben Rice has been pretty hot too. Offensively, I do have to give the slight edge to the Yankees, but I will say that Rob Refsnyder and Romy Gonzalez could be game changers here, especially against the Yankees' left-handed pitching with Max Fried and Carlos Rodon. Romy Gonzalez has been one of the best right-handed bats against lefties this year, and Rob Refsnyder has been a lefty killer his entire career. Now, speaking of the starting pitching, the Yankees have been getting a lot of it lately, with Fried and Rodon coming off solid months, while Luis Heel and Cam Schlittler have shown some good things as well. Now, with the Red Sox, they do have Garrett Crochet. He's been one of the best starters in all of Major League Baseball this year, and he's 3-0 with 39 strikeouts over 4 starts versus the Yankees this year. He has dominated them, but behind him, though, has been lagging a little bit as of late. Brian Bayo did have a down September, and Lucas Giolito is going to be out for the wild card round. He's having some issues with his elbow, so we got to see what's going to happen with him moving forward. Now, I will say this about Brian Bayo. He has pitched very well against the Yankees in his career, 2.35 ERA overall, with a 1.44 ERA at Yankee Stadium in his career. Now, when it comes to the bullpens, the Yankees have had their issues all year, especially with Devin Williams. He's had a ton of ups and downs this year, has been pitching pretty well as of late, but he feels like a box of chocolates. You just don't know what you're going to get. However, David Bednar has looked pretty solid at the back end there after they traded for him from the Pirates, but the Red Sox can absolutely counter with their bullpen. Aroldis Chapman, he's been absolutely fantastic this year, one of the best relievers in all of baseball. Garrett Whitlock has also been one of the best relievers in baseball, one of the best setup men out there this year. Justin Slayton, he's been stepping up as of late. They've been getting some pretty decent performances lately as well from Greg Weissert and Zach Kelly. Justin Wilson has struggled, so I do wonder what the Red Sox are going to do with another lefty from their bullpen. Steven Matz is more of a low leverage kind of a guy, so we'll see how the Red Sox play here, but they do have a lot of options. I do wonder if Peyton Tolley could be an option out of this bullpen, maybe Kyle Harrison as well, not so sure, but in the end, I love the back end of the bullpen for the Red Sox. Chapman and Whitlock have been one of the best 1-2 punches in baseball this year. In the end, I am going to lean towards the Red Sox slightly, and I know, here come the Giraffnik Robbie comments, but I think Alex Cora is going to take advantage of these matchups here. Romy Gonzalez, Rob Refsnyder, I think could be huge X factors going up against lefties like Max Fried, Carlos Rodon. You got Garrett Crochet for a Game 1 start. He has feasted on the Yankees this year, and he looked tremendous in his last start against the Blue Jays. Brian Bayo has looked good against the Yankees in his career, and even though they're not going to have Lucas Giolito, they got a lot of different arms in this bullpen they can turn to. I think Cora is just going to find a way to push the right buttons in this series, and I think the Red Sox will just win in 3 games. On to the division round. Let's start off with the National League with the Brewers and the Padres. We talked about the Padres earlier, so let's focus on the Brewers here. Now, if you're looking for a team that focuses and excels on the small things and the fundamentals, look no further than the Milwaukee Brewers. They make a ton of contact, they get on base a ton, while possessing a lot of talented bats like Christian Yelich, Jackson Chourio, Bryce Terang, and Andrew Vaughn. They're also one of the best defensive teams in the game, ranking 6th in outs above average, while the Padres ranked 17th. Now, I do like the Padres lineup, but I'm going to give the advantage to the Brewers here because I think their offense is a little deeper and they do the little things well. On the pitching side of things, they're pretty solid there as well, and they have a great option for Game 1 in Freddie Peralta with some good depth behind him in Quinn Priester, Chad Patrick. Now, Brandon Woodruff, his health is a little unknown right now. He's dealing with a lat issue, so who knows if he's going to come back, but I do like what the Brewers have when it comes to the rotation, and Jacob Misarowski, I think, could be a weapon of some sort, whether or not they use him to start games or come out of the bullpen. Now, when it comes to the bullpen, I love Abner Uribe and Trevor McGill. Very good 1-2 punch back here. They got some other good arms, but in the end, I do like the Padres bullpen better. Like I said, you got a ton of arms back here. In the end, I am going to go with the Brewers here. I think the lineup is going to cause a lot of fits with the Padres starting pitching. Like I said, they've had a lot of ups and downs, a lot of question marks this year, and they're going to burn their most steady arm in the wild card round in Nick Pivetta. Now, I do like the Padres bullpen better, but I think the Brewers have enough arms to get the job done. I'm going to go with the Brewers in 4 games. On the other side, we have a powerhouse matchup with the Dodgers and the Phillies. I talked about the Dodgers earlier, so let's focus on the Phillies here. Now, we know how good their lineup is with Schwarber and the stupid power that he has. Bryce Harper. Trey Turner's brought an all-around good game this year, and Harrison Bader has looked very good for them since coming over at the deadline. Now, we all know both lineups here have a ton of bats, but where I do worry about the Phillies a little bit is they had the 9th highest swinging strike percentage in the second half, while the Dodgers pitching staff ranked 2nd in stuff plus in the second half. So a lot of swing and miss going up against nasty stuff could be a bad recipe for the Phillies. Now, like I said, you got a lot of good bats here, but you have a lot of good pitching here as well. I said earlier, the Dodgers have had a very good second half with their starting pitching, but the Phillies are absolutely going to be able to counter, even though they're not going to have Zach Wheeler. That is going to be a big loss, but they still have a lot of good arms. Christopher Sanchez has been one of the best pitchers in baseball this year. Jesus Luzardo's been a great pickup for them. Ranger Suarez has been steady yet again this year. Aaron Nola did look better at his last start after a very bad year. Walker Buehler, they picked him up not too long ago after the Red Sox got rid of him, and he's actually looked okay for them, but overall the Phillies have very good starting pitching even without Zach Wheeler. However, there is one problem. The Dodgers have hit left-handed pitching very well this year, ranking 3rd in WRC plus against lefties in the second half, so I think that could give some issues to the Phillies pitching staff. So I'm going to give the slight edge to the Dodgers starting pitching, especially with all the good arms they have. Now, when it comes to the bullpens, I think it's interesting because both teams have had their issues. Now, Yohan Duran for the Phillies has been a great pickup, posting a 2.18 ERA over 23 games so far, but their bullpen posted a 4.71 FIP in September, thanks to giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 over the final month. Now, on the other hand, the Dodgers bullpen has been a mess, posting a 4.90 ERA in September September, and they had the second highest walk rate in the final month, but the FIP was fine at a 3.96, so maybe good things lie ahead for the Dodgers, but I think overall, the bullpens are pretty even. I think it's going to come down to which team makes the least mistakes. In the end, I think this has the makings to be an awesome series, but I do think the Dodgers offense matches up well with the Phillies, and I think the Dodgers starting pitching should be able to take advantage of the Phillies swing and miss issues. Sure, the bullpen has been messy for the Dodgers, but with their starting pitching, I think that should be enough to help them overcome that. I'm going to go with the Dodgers in 5 games. On to the American League, we got the Tigers and the Mariners. We talked about the Tigers earlier, so let's focus on the Mariners a bit. Now, the lineup still has some issues with the swing and miss, like they did last year, posting the 3rd highest swinging strike percentage and 8th highest strikeout percentage in the second half. But they have a ton of boppers in this lineup that can score a lot of runs, ranking 3rd in home runs in the second half. Of course, a big reason for that was Cal Raleigh, who hit 60 home runs this year. The guy was an absolute freak, but you also got Julio Rodriguez, you got Randy Arozarena, Josh Naylor, Eugenio Suarez. You got those guys at the deadline. You got a lot of boppers in this lineup. I'm going to go with the Mariners lineup over the Tigers. I know the Tigers have some solid bats there, but I think the Mariners lineup is just deeper. Now, when it comes to the rotations, sure, the Tigers have Tarek Skubal, who they should get back for Game 2 in this round, but the Mariners rotation is very deep with Logan Gilbert, Brian Wu, George Kirby's pitching better as of late, Luis Castillo's been solid. You even got Bryce Miller, who hasn't looked great this year, but maybe he could do something in the postseason. Either way, the Mariners rotation is very deep. Yes, the Tigers have one of the best pitchers in baseball in Skubal, but the Mariners have one of the best rotations in baseball. And actually, in the second half, the Mariners ranked 4th in pitching plus on Fangraphs, while the Tigers ranked 5th, which is close, but a big reason for the Tigers ranking so high is Skubal. After him, there is a bit of a drop-off, and while the Mariners don't have someone the caliber of Skubal, they're still very strong overall. For the bullpens, I also prefer the Mariners here. They just have more shutdown arms. You got Andres Munoz back there, one of the best closers in all of baseball. That guy's absolutely nasty. You got Gabe Spire, who's been very good, very dependable, a workhorse reliever that's done a lot of good things this year. Matt Brash, he's got some nasty stuff. You got Bizzardo back here. Now, I think the Tigers have a pretty good bullpen, but the Mariners, they just got more shutdown stuff. In the end, I think the Mariners are just going to be too strong here and have them moving on in 4 games. On to the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, and this is a pretty solid matchup. The Blue Jays won the season series 8-5, but the Red Sox just took 2 out of 3 in Toronto at the end of the season. The Blue Jays offense ranked 1st overall in the second half, and I think their last game of the season against the Rays, scoring 13 runs, showed how good they can be. Now, they are going to be without Bo Bichette because of a knee injury, but they still have 2 of the best bats in the game in George Springer, who posted a 166 WRC plus this season, and Vlad Jr., who had an 891 OPS in the second half. And they have some other solid bats as well in Dalton Varsho, Nathan Lucas, and Addison Barger. Now, like I said earlier with the Red Sox, without Roman Anthony, they have been pressing more for runs. And while I do think they can match up well with the Yankees lefties, I think they're going to have their work cut out for them against the Blue Jays righties. Now, Jarren Duran, Masataka Yoshida, they have had success against Kevin Gausman, and Yoshida has been hot since the start of September. They also got Nathaniel Lowe. He's been a good pickup for them after he got released from the Nationals. Wilyer Abreu recently came back from a calf injury, so he's still trying to find his groove, but you know he's got good power there. But right now, I do give the slight edge to the Blue Jays. That offense has just been so good this year, and their starting pitching always seems to do well against the Red Sox lineup. I will say, though, the Red Sox have done much better when it comes to strikeouts and swing and miss in the second half, and even in September without Roman Anthony. Now, with the Blue Jays starters ranking in the bottom half when it comes to stuff plus, that could be a recipe for the Red Sox to put the ball in play and find some success. We'll see how it goes. But the Blue Jays, on the other hand, have a great offense. They've had one of the best lineups in baseball this year, and they've done a good job themselves at limiting the whiffs and the strikeouts. Now, starting pitching-wise, the Red Sox do have the edge when it comes to having an ace in Garrett Crochet compared to Kevin Gausman, but I think the Blue Jays have other solid options as well, like Shane Bieber, Trey Savage, and Chris Bassett, to counter Brian Bayo and whoever else the Red Sox have if Giolito isn't ready to go. Another thing to think about as well is even though Crochet is pitching Game 1 of the wildcard round, he still would line up for Game 2 in the division round and Game 5, which is 5 days later. So that could be a big advantage for the Red Sox to have Crochet possibly 2 times in this series. Now with the bullpens, I do think they're close. The Blue Jays have some solid arms back here, like Jeff Hoffman. Sir Anthony Dominguez has been very good for them. Yari Rodriguez has some pretty solid stuff. Don't forget about Louis Varland as well. Eric Lauer has actually been pitching pretty decent lately too. So the Blue Jays, I think, have a pretty solid bullpen. And I've already talked about the Red Sox bullpen. You got a lot of arms back here. You got Chapman, you got Whitlock. I would personally give the advantage to the Red Sox back end of the bullpen, but at the same time, the Blue Jays, they got a lot of options as well. In the end, I think this is going to be a close series, but I think the Blue Jays find a way to get it done, especially with home field advantage. They've played so well in Toronto this year. They have a great offense, and even though they could potentially go up against Crochet twice in this series, I think their offense is good enough to be able to make adjustments against him if that was the case. Now, I do like the Red Sox bullpen better here, but I think the Blue Jays offense finds a way to score enough runs off guys not named Garrett Crochet, and I think their pitching can do enough against a Roman Anthony-less lineup to win in a 5-game series. So I think the Blue Jays are going to find a way in 5 games. On to the NLCS with the Dodgers and the Brewers. This is an incredibly fun matchup, a ton of star power and talent with the Dodgers versus a team that focuses heavily on the fundamentals, getting on base, and defense for the Brewers. Right now, when it comes to the pitching in general, I am going to give the advantage to the Dodgers. They have a ton of guys that get a lot of swing and miss, like I've already mentioned a couple of times, but I don't think that means the Brewers are going to go down easily. They have good bats, had the best on-base percentage in the second half, they had the second best contact percentage, and they were top 10 in base running, but when it comes to metrics like hard hit percentage, exit velo, and barrel percentage, they haven't ranked as well. So I wonder how much damage they're going to be able to do against the Dodgers pitching. And also, Will Smith looks like he could be back soon, and if he is, his arm behind the plate could be tough for the Brewers trying to take advantage with their running game. And there's a lot of things to like about the Brewers lineup. They get on base, they make a lot of contact, they run the bases well, and they're very good defensively. But I think when it comes to the Dodgers lineup, they're going to give the Brewers pitching staff too much to handle. Again, I think they do have some good arms here, Freddie Peralta, but after him, I just wonder who's the next guy up in a Game 2, Game 3, and I do like Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, but I think the Dodgers bats are just going to be too good. I think in the end, they're going to win this series in 6 games. On to the ALCS with the Blue Jays and the Mariners. Both teams are solid, lots of bats and good pitching, but in the end, I think a big key will actually be the Blue Jays not having enough swing and miss stuff with their pitching. Overall, in the second half, the Blue Jays ranked in the bottom half of the majors with their stuff plus, and their starting pitching gave up the 7th most home runs in the second half. Now, the Mariners, they do have some issues with strikeouts and swing and miss, but that shouldn't be a factor here since they hit the 3rd most home runs in the second half, and combine that with the Brewers' inability to be able to get that swing and miss, I think the Mariners are going to be in good shape. And again, they have this very deep rotation built for the postseason. Brian Wu, Logan Gilbert, Luis Castillo, George Kirby. I mean, you got 4 guys here for a 7-game series. I think that's going to carry the Mariners in this series, and I think they end up winning it in 7 games. On to the World Series. They got an all-West matchup for the second time in 3 years, the Mariners and the Dodgers. The story here is great pitching, which is very even in my opinion. Now, with the offenses, though, like I said earlier, the Mariners have had issues with a high whiff percentage this year, and I see the Dodgers taking advantage of that with all the good arms they have. Yoshinobu Yamamoto has been one of the best pitchers in baseball, racks up the strikeouts. Blake Snell's nasty. Tyler Glasnow's looking healthy, and Ohtani is back in the rotation. Now, again, the Mariners have a great rotation. You got Wu, Gilbert, Castillo, Kirby, but when you got these bats like the Dodgers do with Ohtani having another incredible season, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Teoscar, Max Muncy, Andy Pages having himself a very good year this year, I think they have enough offense to be able to get the job done against the Mariners pitching. I think the Dodgers are going to win this series in 6 games, and they're going to be the first team since the Yankees in 2000 to win back-to-back World Series. But knowing me, these are all probably going to be very wrong. So let me know your predictions down below in the comments. I can't wait to see what predictions that you have. I can't wait to see how many of you are going to tell me the Red Sox are going to win the whole thing, because that's honestly probably what's going to happen here. I'm just saying. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.